advise you when it's live.
Right.
Okay, Chair, you're live on YouTube.
Thanks, Scott. Sorry about that, everybody. Right, we'll go on to the second question.
Chair, could I just quickly jump in? I couldn't hear a word Mr. Roebuck said, and I apparently have read out the wrong answer in response to his question. So is it possible for me to reread something?
Chair, can I make a suggestion? I wonder if we could have read out the question from Mr. Roebuck, because I know that it was quite difficult to hear him on the phone line.
Right. So I suppose you want me to read it out, do you?
If you're able to, Chair, I think that would be helpful.
Okay. Wait till I find it.
Chair, can I ask, Councillor Walker here, can I ask that everybody put their cameras on, because I thought we were supposed to be visible as well as being heard.
We are supposed to be, you're right, Councillor Walker, yeah. Right, so I'll start and I'll read out Mr. Roebuck's question. And it's to do with the Helmington, can everybody hear me, by the way? Am I cover clear? Right, the Helmington North Development Brief. And he says, in the adopted local housing plan, policy H23 for Helmington Grange, paragraph F, it essentially indicates that apartments will not be permitted in the development. And he starts a new paragraph and he says, will the council therefore reject the adoption of the Helmington North Development Brief as agreed by the Executive Committee on the 27th of October and request planning officers to develop a brief that meets the requirements of the said policy H23 and also addresses respondents' issues which were totally ignored by planning officers. Councillor Waters, did you get that?
I did. Thank you, Chair. Response is, yes, we did have planning policy H23. It does state that the apartments will not be permitted. The development brief recognises that it may be appropriate to see their development in this specific location for two reasons. Firstly, it's going to help to increase the amount of affordable housing that can be delivered on this site. The original intention was to bring forward a high-value extra care scheme in this location in lieu of affordable housing. As that scheme is no longer coming forward, it is considered appropriate for an affordable housing scheme of sufficient value to be developed in its place. Secondly, the brief also recognised that as a prominent corner site, an apartment scheme might provide the most appropriate design solution. This does not mean that apartments will definitely be developed on the site, only that they might be acceptable if they are of sufficiently high quality design. Any proposal will be subject to a planning application where these matters will be considered in detail. With regard to rejecting the adoption of the Helmington North Development Brief, this is not something the Council can do now the calling period has expired. In any case, I do not consider it necessary for the Council to do so and will not be seeking any amendments to the adopted brief. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Waters. Right, so we'll continue with the second question now, which was from Mr. Walker, Mr. Adrian Walker, I believe. Are you with us, Mr. Walker?
Hello?
Hello, Mr. Walker?
Yeah, hello, Chair.
Right. Would you like to ask your question of Councillor Waters, please?
Unfortunately, Chair, Mr. Walker has now left the meeting for some reason.
Right. Okay. So I shall read out his question to Councillor Waters. Right. Further to the recent decision to adopt the development briefs for sites at Helmington North and Helmington Grange South, would Councillor Walkers be willing to request that the Executive Committee revisit this decision on the basis that the planning officers / department did not apply the requirements of the statement of community involvement in responding to the consultation, failing to respond to legitimate concerns raised by respondents and instead used a cut and paste approach? In answering my question, please can Councillor Waters also indicate the extent to which he agrees or disagrees with the statement below, taken from paragraph 1.10 of Middlesbrough Council's Statement of Community Involvement. And it says, for planning to be seen as positive, all sections of the community must have the confidence that the process is legitimate, operates in a timely manner, and produces outcomes that are in the public interest. The process should be simple to follow and delivered in a fair, transparent, and efficient manner. This demonstrates that the council clearly are not listening to the people or making sure everyone is on board. The last sentence relates to comments made by Councillor Waters in the Gazette. Councillor Waters, can you respond, please?
Thank you, Chair. It's going to sound a bit like deja vu, but here we go. Without knowing exactly which of the issues the Council has considered to have failed to respond, I am going to state the purpose of the consultation was to consider the detailed design layout matters that will accompany the marketing of the site, which the Council will take into account during the consideration of future planning applications and not the principles of development. Many of the comments received, however, related to the principle of development and as such were beyond the scope of development brief and the consultation exercise. In the case of Hemlington North, the principle has already been determined through a previous planning application that identified the site as being the location of the affordable housing to support the wider Hemlington Grange development. In the case of the Hemlington Grange South, the site is allocated for development in the housing local plan. I do not consider that the Council failed to respond to the legitimate issues raised, and that the responses were appropriate when considered against the scope of the consultation. Again, I agree that there was a cut and paste approach, but it is recognised that the Council has provided identical responses where the same issue has been raised by more than one consultee. Again, this is to ensure consistency and that we're sending the same message. I'm satisfied all the comments were properly considered with appropriate responses. I do agree with the paragraph of 1.10 of the Council Statement of Community Involvement and consider the consultation on the Hemlington development briefs was undertaken properly in accordance with the spirit of the SCI. I also consider the decision was made in the wider public interest. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Waters. Right, we'll continue with the meeting. We're now going to agenda item 6, which is the Mayor's Statement and Report. Mayor Preston, over to you.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you very much, Chair. Hello, everyone. Good evening. I want to give you an overview of some stuff. And what I want to do is, we're into the back end of November. It's cold, it's dark, it's bleak out there. It's been a tough year for everyone. Probably for many of us, it's been a challenging year, perhaps the most challenging of our lives. And what I want to do is not override that. I don't want to pretend it hasn't happened, but what I want to do is talk about some of the real positive stuff that's going on. I want to make sure everyone knows that we're making real progress in Middlesbrough and that we can all be upbeat and optimistic about a tough year ahead in 2021, but a year of real achievements and successes coming. First of all, I want to list 10 things. The first one is, I've said it before, but Gresham's been depopulated, unloved, ignored, and left to rack and ruin. What we've done in Gresham is we've got the first social housing built in Middlesbrough for decades, going up there, starting in the next 30 days. Initially about 145 houses, then another 90 or so. It'll be a 30-odd million quid rejuvenation of this very centre of town. In Middlesbrough, into central Middlesbrough, we've lost many thousands of people, probably 20,000 people over the last 40 years. We've got to start bringing that back, and if we do, absorb and that stuff is mind-blowing. We've planted 14,000, or we're on schedule to have planted 14,000 this early on, so we're hoping to get that number to 25, 35 or even 45,000, and that's been a fantastic achievement for all of us, a lot of community groups involved. And if people want to get involved in planting trees with the council's help as part of a community, get in touch and we'll make it happen. Number 3 is CCTV. CCTV is great. It gathers info, it goes to the police, it deters crime, and it catches criminals. We've put up more CCTV, and a new grant system, a unique grant system, is giving out CCTV cameras to residents to put in the front of their homes, the back of their homes, deter ASB, catch people in back alleys rummaging through bins, actually finally get the evidence that we need to prosecute the characters that are polluting the streets. Number 4 is going to be announced formally in 3 weeks' time, in the middle of December. A full-blown planning app. It's been many months of work. Boho X, amazing, beautiful, fantastic building housing our digital sector, but as a hub, as a magnet for the whole region. Without doubt, the best building in the whole of the northeast of England. Incredible facilities, awesome location, and a real landmark. And everyone will see that big, bold, and proud within 2 years of today. And it goes for planning in 3 weeks' time. Number 5, council's brave, prudent, and intelligent purchase of Captain Cook Square. This shopping centre was available at something like 30 million some time ago, then at 18, then at 12, then at 10, and we snapped it up for 8 million quid. We're repositioning it. We're going to have a lot of leisure going on. People are going to be coming into central Middlesbrough for leisure activities. That's going to boost the shops. It's going to lower crime. It's going to give us a better atmosphere and become a real hub for the whole region. That's number 5. Announcements on that coming very, very soon. Number 6 is street wardens. Street wardens do so much unseen work. The other day, someone in distress, their little motor scooter, their mobility scooter had run out of battery, so they pushed this half a mile to someone's house. On top of that, they work with the police. They gather intelligence for drugs raids, booting out antisocial people, chasing them out of town. They protect people. They help get into people safe. We've put more wardens on the streets. They're doing more work and they've got more power. Number 7 is a farm. In 1828 or thereabouts, Middlesbrough was just a farm and a couple of buildings. We are building, or a charity is building at zero cost to us, a new farm on that very location. How fantastic is that? North and west of the old town hall. It's going to start bringing that whole area back up. It's going to grow food. It's going to work with vulnerable people. It's going to be a magnet for volunteering. And it's not costing the council a penny. It's going to be the Hill Village Trust. And if you've ever visited Larchfield or Botton Village in our area, then you're familiar with what they do. It's going to be amazing. A green strategy. Green strategy, we've got a green ambition. We are going to set targets. We are going to be, without doubt, the most green, the most ambitious, and the cleanest council in the whole of the Tees Valley. We're going to beat everyone else's targets. Details to be released soon, of course. Of course, that fits in well with the trees. And we are going to be clean and green and set standards for others to follow. Number 9, briefly about COVID. First of all, a massive, massive thank you. The vast majority of businesses, of residents, of organisations have made real sacrifices. And our infection rate has come down from about 5 or 7 into the high to mid 200s now. The improvement is incredible. So thank you so much to everyone who's played a role. There is more work to do. None of us know, by the way, what we go into, whether it's going to be tier 3 or tier 2. Sadly, I suspect it's tier 3. Personally, I believe that we deserve more of a break than that, but I think we need to have more enforcement. I prefer tier 2 with more enforcement. I'd love to see our well-run restaurants, our safe restaurants open and protecting jobs, giving people a chance to go out and eat. Similarly, I don't believe that a well-run bar is a danger to anyone. Badly run bar, and I would like to see us have bars open, but the powers and the resources to close down the offending places. But the COVID response generally has been fantastic. Exclusively from it's been amazing, whether it's about dishing out grants super fast, well ahead of others, whether it's about providing more information through leaflet drops, whether it's about handing out free face masks. We were the first place to really push the face masks. And I think if I was to say something about myself and the execs, we've also been very, very brave, taking back from the public, going out with messages from March till today, reminding people to do the stuff they don't like being reminded about, which is keep a distance, wash your hands, wear a mask. You get a lot of flack when you say that. Some politicians have hid, but we've been out there stressing the messages. And I think it has helped. Statistically, if you look at our demographic, our deprivation levels, our density of population and other factors, our COVID rate should be higher. We should have a COVID rate much higher than neighbouring boroughs. And I think that's a credit to the staff, it's a credit to the people of Middlesbrough, and it's a credit to the action that we have all. address it. We've been on the front foot, we've been aggressive, and we've taken direct action to limit the spread of COVID. What I want to talk about is something that has just arisen very, very. In the past, when people come and develop land, there's a thing called some money towards community good. It usually ends up in a big central pot. And that's great. We definitely shouldn't stop that. Sometimes 106 money isn't levied for a legal reason. It's not applicable. And yesterday we came up with a scheme whereby the council is disposing of some land. We're getting a reasonable price for the land. And what we've committed is that when that happens, when the council disposes of any asset, it will normally be land. If the expected price is achieved or it's higher, the council will push, which might not sound a lot, but can be £40,000, £80,000, £200,000, depends on the sale of the asset. We're going to push that money towards the local community to do what the community wants, whether it's a community centre, whether it's play parks, whether it's a growing area, it doesn't matter. We're going to push that money to communities. And we're making that commitment now. The exact mechanism we don't know, but we're making that commitment right now. That's it from me. This is a tough year. Next to be tough, but better. And there is loads to be optimistic about. We've got a new spring in our step. We've got new ambition. There's new optimism. And there's a new sense that we are going places. And by the way, people around the country tell me that. They tell me that they see what we are doing. They see the positive messages coming out. They see the great images about our area. And some of the old whinging, moaning, being negative and bleating about how unfair the world is. And it is unfair, but bleating about it is pointless. Now some of that's gone. People are looking at us more seriously for investment. So I am aware of the difficulties. We're a hunger-free town. We're committed to helping anyone in need, being fairer than ever before. But we're also optimistic for jobs, investment and prosperity in 21, 22 and 23. That's it from me. Thank you very much.
Thank you for that, Mayor Preston. Are there any members who wish to put any questions on this report to Mayor Preston? I can see Councillor Cook. Councillor Cook, anybody else? No?
Chair, Councillor Matt Story wishes to ask a question as well.
Sorry. Right. Oh dear. Did you have your hand up, Councillor Rathmill? I don't know whether you just fell off your chair or your hand went up. I can't take my mind up.
No, I was wafting the mayor. He never stopped for air then. He did well.
Right, okay. That's fair enough. Right. So we've got Councillor Cook first. Councillor Cook?
Hi, thank you, Chair. So when it comes to CCTV, I'm worried about a trend that might occur. In some parts of the town, we have low reporting of issues, but that doesn't mean that there isn't a high amount of issues there. In my ward, for instance, there's Eyre Street. The alleys in Eyre Street, most times, are really, really appalling for multiple factors due to breached houses, drug-related crime, to fly tipping by landlords. But if we look on my Middlesbrough, they've had one report for an entire year. So that, on the face of it, probably wouldn't deserve a camera. But if you speak to the residents and if you actually go there and see it, it totally deserves a camera. I'm just wondering, how are we going to tackle that lack of reporting and lack of sort of awareness in areas? And is there sort of any mechanism where council staff can start having a say about areas that they see as being problematic as well, to try and feed into the camera strategic plan?
Mayor Preston?
Okay, thank you for that, Chris. Yeah, I agree. I think it's something we need to be very mindful of. To reassure you, when cameras are going to be located somewhere, a range of factors are taken into account, not least the actual input from the police, from Middlesbrough's neighbourhood officers, from the wardens and other things, and how much crime is reported by residents or ASB is reported by residents is only one of the factors. And between the police, the wardens, the neighbourhood safety and other things, I think there's a good sense. I can reassure you that I think there's a really good sense as to what the real level of problem is. It isn't just about how many people report things. But you're right, we absolutely need to encourage everyone to report. Please, if you're watching, if you're listening, if you give a damn, if you see anything, whether it's fly tipping in your street, whether it's bin rummaging, whether it's significant crime, please report it. Even if you think someone else might have done, we need the info, and that info in a prompt and timely manner helps us get convictions, which deters other people from doing it. So thank you for the question. It's a good question.
Thank you, Mayor Preston. Councillor Story.
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, I just wanted to welcome the vast majority of what the Mayor said. There's lots of really interesting stuff in there. Pick up on a few of the points. You mentioned trees, 14,000 trees, building up to 25,000. It's certainly interesting to members if we can see how that's going to progress. And are we including whips in that, or are we talking about mature trees? And how will that work? CCTV, again, Councillor Cook's right, it's absolutely essential. It's critical in our ward. Myself and Councillor Lewis and Councillor Udin have secured money through this member small scheme allowance for CCTV for our ward, and it's been tremendously beneficial. And if there's more support for that, I know that'll be absolutely essential for our ward. I'm delighted about Boho X. I'm glad it's moving forward. I'm glad we've got a building that fits the needs of the digital sector, and that it's going to be a building that will allow that sector to expand, and we don't lose those businesses to other areas. Captain Cook Square, I've raised questions about that before, purely about viability. How is it going to work in practice? What are the circumstances around that going to be? How will we make money off of it? And what's the rental income going to be like? Just need to make sure it stacks up. I think street wardens do a fantastic job. I agree with you on that. I think they've had a lot of extra responsibility with environmental responsibilities and now COVID responsibilities. We need to make sure we look after our staff and make sure that they're coping okay. And I'll be interested to know from you about exactly how many new wardens we've got, as opposed to just redeployed existing staff. The farm in Middlehaven is something that we're very supportive of as ward councillors. We've been briefed on that. We're absolutely 100% behind that. It's going to be fantastic for Middlehaven, part of that new community that's going up over there. I think COVID, obviously you referenced that, that's critical. We need the funding, we need support for businesses, we need support for local people. We need to make sure that the money is coming in to ensure that the long-term impacts of this are not catastrophic for Middlesbrough. And the government need to step up on that, and I'm sure that we'll be lobbying and pushing for that. I'm interested to know which politicians have been hiding. I know Labour politicians have been outspoken on COVID, making sure that we're pressing the messages home on social media, in our wards, helping deliver the leaflets to local people, and getting out there in our areas, helping businesses and supporting local people who've been struggling with food parcels and other things. We've been doing that. I'm sure independent members and Conservatives have as well. So I'm not sure which politicians have hidden, but I know that from the Labour
Councillor Story, Councillor Story, I've got to interrupt
you. Just one final thing, Chair. I'll just wrap up here. I'll just wrap up there. I'll just wrap up here. And the 106 money, I was interested about that because the way you described it, that's basically what 106 money's always been used for. And I wondered if you had any more detail about the change to 106 money and exactly what that'll look like, because it was the way you described it sounds very similar to how it currently works. If there's any kind of further detail on that, that would be most helpful. Thank you, Chair.
Mayor Preston.
Hi, yeah, I mean, even I can't answer all those. There's a lot of good questions. The only one that I can deal with sensibly, you're welcome to email me or contact. Most of them are probably questions for officers. First of all, I'll try. Listen, I'll try. With the trees, it's about trees in total numbers. So if we do 14,000 trees or 40,000 trees, that's going to be a mixture of some huge, 15-foot, 20-year-old trees, and it's going to be some new trees as well that might be 1, 2, or 3 years old. So it's going to be an absolute mixture. Regards to CCTV, yes, there is more coming. Yes, there are grants going to be available. Regards the wardens, I couldn't tell you how many new ones there are currently, because obviously there's staff changes all the time. But if you contact Marion Walker, who was ultimately in charge of that group, I'm sure she can help you tomorrow. Captain Cook Square, we've had experts look at this, taken expert advice. We are putting together a scheme, a proposition, which is really exciting. Will absolutely blow everyone's socks off. It's a very, very exciting scheme. And I can't remember what would be the points, but I'll have to leave it there because I can't remember all of the points. But thank you for those.
Thank you very much, Mayor Preston. I think Councillor Udin, you wanted to ask something?
Yeah. Yes, thank you, Chair. Yeah, I was going to ask actually about the street warden, but obviously my colleague Matt Story asked, how many. So obviously the Mr. Mayor couldn't answer that properly. What can you just tell us, what sort of their timing they will be working at? Because the last few years, if you like, they finished about, say, 7 o'clock in the evening. I think people need them late night, as you know. So just can you shed the light on that, so what time they will be working as late? Possible?
Mayor Preston, can you answer that?
Yes, of course. So the exact number I don't know, because there have been staff changes, some new recruitment. We've replaced most of those who've left, but we've invested some of the money into a new management system, which is actually going to be paying big dividends. There's a new head of service who's turning it around and getting even more out of the wardens, which is fantastic news. But they are working later than 7:30, absolutely. I think last I checked, it was till 9 at night, but there is a plan to expand that. But if you want to contact me or Marion Walker first thing tomorrow, can let you know the latest numbers. But the new head of service, the new really positive, energetic guy, he's absolutely going to bring the most out of those teams. And I can assure you now, it's going to make a real difference. We're going to get even more work out the wardens. There's a lot of commitment from them to their communities and a lot of passion, but that's only going to grow when you meet this new guy. It's very exciting to see him and his passion for it. But if you want exact details on numbers, on hours, give me a shout tomorrow or go to Marion Walker direct. Thanks.
Thank you, Mayor Preston. Does anybody else have a question? I obviously can't see everybody. I can't see. I can't see everybody at all. So,
Councillor Chris Cook, Chair.
Right, Mr. Wright, would you like to go?
Thanks, Chair. I welcome the Mayor's green plan and the plan for new trees. You may have heard that in Easterside, I'm resurrecting the community, which has been long neglected, and bringing that back. So I would welcome the Mayor's to perhaps visit the community garden and welcome the trees being planted there as well. I also would like to praise the Mayor for his CCTV initiative. I've supported lots of residents in Eastside with the private property CCTV, which I think is innovative and can have a big impact on the antisocial behaviour and crime that we're seeing in our wards. It'll cost around £36,000 to repair the CCTV in my ward, and I know Marion Walker is looking at funding for that, and I'm grateful for that. I just wonder if the Mayor would comment on when we can expect to see the private CCTV in place.
Mayor Preston?
Thank you. Thank you for that, Craig. So the community garden, fantastic. I'm really pleased. I think I may have visited it actually about a year and a half ago. And it was, and to hear that you're actually doing, if it is not the same site, then to hear that you're bringing something else back to life is fantastic. And I would love to visit. I would love to see actually, in Easterside, if it's possible, more of them. Why not have, one in every single area? I don't even mean wards, every little part of town. Why not have? We're working on an idea for that in Colby Newham right now, and I said it, I think 3 or 4 years ago initially. Why don't we have one in every single part of town? Anybody wants to go and grow stuff and work with others to grow stuff and share the produce out, and kids can see it grow and see where food really comes from. It doesn't come from the supermarket shelves. It gets grown somewhere, often abroad, but why don't we do it? So I'm really excited about that. The grants, I can't tell you when Marion will find the money. I promise I can pick it up with her tomorrow. Give me a nudge if you don't hear from me. Yeah, we need to keep pushing these things. Cameras work wonders. I know sometimes there's a trade-off with liberty and protection. Personally, I think we're too sensitive, especially in higher crime areas. We're too sensitive to that, and we need to put protection as more of a focus. But I'm all for more cameras sensitively placed and respectfully placed in the right places. Easterside's a great area. I know you're technically Ladgate, which covers Martin Manor and Easterside. Easterside is great. Whenever I go, and it's got sometimes it has a certain reputation, but it generally looks very clean. I know you've got the litter pickers there, Freddie and Irene that are always down picking litter on the streets there. But it's quite green. There's bits of wildflowers growing. I see sometimes. I think it's a great area. There's a great spirit. And if I can help you and Easterside and June Goodchild in any way, please get in touch. I'd love to help. It's places like Easterside that are almost there. They need a bit of help, and they can be even more fantastic. they can be genuinely great places to live. And there are loads of community people that I've mentioned. I know you're a community person. I know that June is. I know you've got people like Tony Grange doing incredible stuff there as well. And I shouldn't name people because it means I miss people out. But there's great stuff going on and I'd love to help.
Right, thank you, Mayor Preston. Right, we had Councillor Cook to ask a question. After Councillor Cook, I think we'll pull a halt on this item because I think we've gone on long enough. We've still got a lot more to do.
Chair, my apologies. Councillor Jeanette Walker had a hand up a little while ago and I missed it.
Okay, so we'll do Jeanette Walker as well. Councillor Cook first, then Jeanette Walker, then that's the end. Councillor Cook again.
Yeah, I am. Thank you, Chair. I noticed one of your last statements was about being a hunger-free town. That's quite bold. Major concerns about sort of provision. I know the charity sector does pick up a lot of the slack when it does come to this. I'm just wondering, going forward, are we going to start looking at more schemes? Because I know there's people who are going to fall through the gaps, whether it be that they're just isolating for 2 weeks or whether it be that now due to decreased work that they're struggling, but they're not quite meeting certain thresholds. I just wondered if we're going to come up with any sort of schemes to try and catch all of those that are slipping through the gaps.
Mayor Preston?
Yeah, really good. I think, first of all, so we have an ambition to be a hunger-free town. Of course, we will never, ever eradicate hunger, but we have an ambition to be a hunger-free town. And to me, what that means is that if somebody really needs food, they can get it. What it doesn't mean, if somebody continually and deliberately spends their money on other or inappropriate things, that they don't have to worry because there's always someone to pick up the slack. It shouldn't mean that, but what it means is that it's always there to catch someone that's fallen on a tough time, a difficult week, a difficult month, or a new situation. And what we have to do when we give out any kind of aid, you have to give out aid responsibly, whether it's cash, food, or any other help. You have to give it intelligently. And that means providing it to people who need it, initially unconditionally, but working with them to identify what is the problem. Why is it that you cannot put food on the table? And let's work out why it is, and let's put that right, whether it's illegal money lenders, whether it's an addiction of some kind, whether it's, I don't know, something else. So we have to be very careful. You're dead right. Yes, your last point is spot on. So this council did something fantastic. When the government didn't vote to push a bunch of money to free school meal kids and their families for half term in October, we to my knowledge, we were the first ones to actually commit to make up that shortfall. To be fair to the government, with money the government had given us for some things, and we committed that. That was the right thing to do at that time because it was short notice and we needed to send a message to people in need that we are on your side. We are going to stick by you and work with you. That's the literal meaning of the word solidarity, or the origin of it. What we need to do, though, is not just on free school meals. There are people in dire straits, in desperate situations, who don't qualify for free school meals and slip through the net. Similarly, there are a tiny number of people on free school meals who perhaps have other relatives who help them out and aren't as needy as others. So what we have to do is try and find a channeling assistance and support and love to need it, not just to people who qualify as a certain badge. So we're working on that now as a council, been involved in several meetings recently where we're working out how do we capture the families who don't qualify for free school meals because their income is at a certain level, but the change in circumstances, which is probably ultimately COVID related, means there is extraordinary hardship going on. It could be people on working tax credits. It could be people who seem to have a good income, but things have changed. We are there for them. We will be able to outline soon how we're going to help them through the impending holidays coming up, with food parcels, with some financial assistance, with help with fuel bills. We're there for people, and we're not just going to give it out to people with a certain badge. It's going to be there and based on need. I'll stop talking. Thank you for the question.
Thank you, Mayor Preston. Right, last question for Councillor Jeanette Walker.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Chair. Mayor Preston, I mean, regarding all the CCTVs, I'm a bit concerned. in Hemlington, in the Bewley Centre, we've been trying for the past 2 years to get hold of the CCTV to be linked up to the main bus station CCTV unit, because we get a lot of bother for the businesses and also the residents. It's exacerbated, obviously, recently due to the COVID and the problems and people being restricted into certain areas. And I personally have been out there with our own enforcement agent, officer, with the fire brigade, police, etc., talking to businesses and putting in with a crime prevention officer, trying to get something done and set up in the Bewley Centre. However, where is how are we going to get this linked up to the main bus station? That's what I want to know. Also, we've only had one extra camera in Hemlington, and that was put into part of the estate run by 13, and that is in the Dodford estate. So where are the rest of them? And also, I think that question needs to be asked, who actually is qualified for all these private CCTVs? Because a lot of people I know have had difficulty and they just can't get it. So because of the fact that they are in a 13 property, and you have to deal with the with 13 as well as the council. So there's a lot of red tape still to go through, I think, on that one. So thank you very much.
Mayor Preston, can you enlighten her on that?
Yeah, hi, thank you for the questions. Yeah, Hemlington does deserve more cameras. As you say, I know 13 have been putting some up in some areas. I didn't know that the Bewley Centre cameras weren't connected. We need to address that and work out if it couldn't. It's going to cost significant money. We need to find a way of finding that money. Hemlington is sometimes very much for that. If they feel it, I mean, they're probably, what, 5.5, 6 miles out of the very centre of town. And that means, I hope it doesn't mean they're out of mind, because they're not. I grew up very near there and I had lots of friends from all over Hemlington, and I've seen it evolve and change over the years. And so I want to see more cameras there from the council, from 13, and also this private scheme. The grant scheme that we've set up is innovative, it's new, it was hugely oversubscribed. And so one of the challenges is actually in the end, Jeanette, they had to be some of the successful ones had to be selected out of a hat because there were so many people. But what we have done is made sure that every area got some. I can't give the numbers off the top of my head. I wasn't involved in that process, but I know that every area got some, and there's a plan for a lot more. And if you want to make representations to me directly or to Marion Walker, who I've mentioned earlier, obviously that's fine too. I'm here to help Hemlington. Hemlington deserves a lot of support. I know 13 are doing some good work. Private housing getting built, which is selling well and is successful. But I also know there are some of the older buildings, older residential buildings that were built, I guess, before, after. Well, I remember when it was Oldfield, so we're probably talking mid to late 70s when it was built, when the lake was put in. And it hasn't been improved since. And it needs a lot more support, a lot more love, a lot more nurturing. If you want me to play a role in that, let me know. If you just want me to put you in touch with other people at the council and lobby on your behalf, let me know. I will do everything I can to help.
Thank you very much. I shall be on to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Preston. Right, we'll now move on to agenda item 7, which is, as we all know, the highlight of the night. This is the Deputy Mayor and Executive Member reports. Now, we have received 22 questions. And according to council procedure, we're allowed 30 minutes to do it. 2 minutes to ask the question and 3 minutes for an answer. Well, you don't need to have a brain to decide that you can't do that. So what I've done, I've listed 12 people who've got questions in, and all those people will try to answer their question. If we run out of time when we've reached the 12th one, all the second and third and fourth questions that have been put in, you will have to send in to the executive members electronically. So we'll start at the very beginning. And the first questions are for Councillor High. The first one is for Councillor Halawi, Corporate Parenting Strategy.
I don't believe I submitted that question this evening.
Did you not? Okay.
I have another question for Councillor Davison here, but not for
No. Wait your turn. I'll get round to you. Just hang on. So we'll take you out of there. And the next question for Councillor High is for is from Councillor Thompson.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, it's for the executive member. On your report, page 1, paragraph 1, youth service in Middlesbrough. We have an excellent youth service in Middlesbrough provided by Links, who cover Hemlington, Corby Newham, Brecon Hill, Netherfields, Ayrsham, Newport and Central Ward. I just point out there that East Middlesbrough only has one area covered here, and that's Netherfields. So can the executive member ensure me that the extra provision of a youth service he is providing will cover my ward, Bramblesam and Thorntree, a much needed service which residents keep asking me for? Thank you, Chair.
Councillor High.
Thank you, Chair. And it's a valid question raised by Councillor Thompson. The reality is that now we've seen youth provision stripped right across Middlesbrough. Ideally, we would love to see these provisions in every single ward running regularly and probably daily, as it was when I was a young man. Sadly, for mainly due to the amount of cuts that the local authority has seen drastically, we've seen a massive reduction in the services that we can provide for young people right across the programme that we're looking to put out covers a number of key areas. Transition. Chair, am I still in the room? It keeps going.
Yeah, you're still there. Yeah.
Yeah. So it covers transition work, targeted work, and universal. The aim of this is to look at ensuring this is spread across the town as fairly and as evenly as possible. The reality of what we're faced with is I've only managed to secure just over £250,000 worth of finances. It's spreading very little resource on a very large demographic area that needs a lot of input and a lot of intervention for young people. So we are waiting on for different providers to come forward in relation to their approach, and I am confident that the local authority will be looking to move with providers that are willing and ready to try and push these services right across the town. Councillor Thompson's mentioned a particular service there, Chair, and I don't think it would be fair for me to just leave that without identifying. There are a number of other organisations that work really well across this town. I won't go into name them all, but I just think it's appropriate and important that we don't just look to focus on one particular provider. And I'm sure that the procurement process that we are currently going through will ensure that the best and the most appropriate provider will be selected to run forward with these contracts. I would also like to add, Chair, as I've continued to go on record to say, that this is just the start. I will continue to champion services for young people at every single opportunity. And where I can find additional resources and push them into a service, be assured that children's youth services and services will be the top of my agenda. Thank you, Chair.
Can
Thank
I
you, Councillor.
just come back there?
No, Janet, we don't have time for any supplementary questions. I'm sorry. If we want to get through these 22, no, sorry.
You didn't answer my question.
You didn't answer your question. Sorry, is that what you said? Is that what you said, Janet? You didn't answer your question.
Well, the question, Chair, that I don't know how well.
My question was, will you be...
Councillor Thompson, could you just please show a little bit more respect for the Chair, please, and allow him to continue with proceedings? Thank you.
Thank you.
Right. Next question is from Councillor Morstan, and that again is for Councillor High. Councillor Morstan.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Councillor High, it's on the subject of the youth service. The only service we've had in Martin for the last 19 years has been a voluntary service provided by Councillor Davison. So we do provide something ourselves, but judging from the amount of money available, I'm not holding my breath for an increase in service provided in Martin. But can I just ask, what response have you had from would-be providers in the tendering process? Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Morstan.
Councillor High.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Thank you for that, Councillor Morstan. And do you know something? It's voluntary centres and provision that have really kept the town's young people engaged and allowed them access at a number of different stages throughout the last 10 years, I would say. So firstly, I would like to go on record and say a massive thank you to Councillor Davison and yourself, Councillor Moss, for what you provide within your ward, and also other areas where centres are looking to provide these facilities. I know East Middlesbrough has quite a prominent community facility approach, and I think it's fair to say that they have been back. In terms of the process, the tender process is currently moving. The closing date for submissions was the 23rd of November. Obviously, it's all within a very strict and confidential process at this moment in time. But I can say confidently that we have received a number of submissions from various different providers within the local area across all the different elements of contracts that we have available. So the universal work, targeted work, and the transitional work. Obviously, there will be a process for those providers. Successful and unsuccessful bidders will be notified early December. There will be a holding period for that point, and we're really confident, as initially promised, that we will have these services active and across Middlesbrough from the 1st of April. Now, considering the circumstances we've faced in terms of COVID and a reduction in staff and all those difficulties we've faced, I think it's only fair to say I'm really pleased with the officers and the team within Middlesbrough Council who've looked to get this particular piece of work to the point of functioning early in 2021. So yeah, if no more on that, Chair, I'd like to close.
Thank you very much. The next question and last question for Councillor High is from Councillor Uddin.
Right, thank you, Chair. Yeah, thank you very much. Councillor High, on your report, page 2, item 10, it's about the social workers, yeah? You mentioned obviously a few things there. I'm not going to read the whole the paragraph, but a couple of points I picked up on that. Obviously, you covered some of this work, you know, when the workers are on the sick, you use the, obviously, agency worker. And obviously, you highlighted that as well. They are quite valuable. They bring quite positive to the area, expertise, and so on. So what I wondered, rather than having directly appointed people, why can't we employ this agency worker on a longer term rather than a week, 2, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 5 weeks? Because when they go, obviously, they give you only a few days notice, 5 days notice, basically. That's it. And that leaves a lot of mess for the current workers or the managers and so on. So what I thought, if you would employ this or the longer term, this agency worker, they will bring expertise and so on. And I think that might be the best option. So what's your thought on this? Longer term means obviously the year, at least year, 2 years, something like that. And a lot of people are there, agency workers, they would like to work long term, yeah, if they can. It's like
Thank you, Councillor.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Uddin.
Welcome.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for the
Councillor High,
question.
can you answer?
Thank you for the question, Chair, and thank you for putting that forward, Councillor Uddin. I mean, there's a reality around agency staff in terms of children's services and long-term employment, and the local authority looking to take people on a long-term employment. The reality is, legally, the local authority are not allowed to just take agency staff from agencies for long-term areas of delivery, because there are contractual arrangements that prevent local authorities from just taking away agency staff. The reality is, though, agency staff within children's services is a national issue and something that all local authorities look to use and utilise at different stages. We currently, as people know, we're currently a local authority with set interventions in relation to our current Ofsted outcomes. And often you find there's a huge increase in agency staff to local authorities that are in this position. The reality, though, agency rate has been quite healthy in the last year, and I think it's around about 21%. In comparison to other local authorities, this is quite low. And I mean, there's some local authorities that almost half of their workforce is in agencies, agency staff. So we would like to use as little agency staff as possible, but we have to be realistic to the current circumstances we're facing as a local authority. In Middlesbrough as well, we're also using managed services where we're recruiting whole teams of agency staff. So that number seems a little bit high because we're doing some bespoke targeted work over a short period of time and using agency staff to get that developed and delivered within the service. We are, in fairness, and I think it's poignant to say this, that we are looking at launching a strategic workforce programme very soon, which will have key work streams around recruitment and retention. The recruitment campaign that we're looking at designed around obviously celebrating our improvement journey and also looking to showcase why we want social workers in the region to come and join us in terms of where we are currently. I hope that answers the question, Councillor Ruddin. If not, please feel free to drop me a line for any further info.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Now, the next set of questions are for Councillor Davidson. It's 2 minutes to ask a question, 3 minutes for an answer. And this is Councillor Halawi, and I think you wanted to ask on local authority, asylum support, liaison officers. Councillor Halawi.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, it's reference to paragraph 2 of your report, Councillor Davison. I'm asking on 2 counts here. One is a plea for basic, simple English. As a linguist, I find it very difficult to understand this paragraph. I will read out 2 sentences because I'd like the clarity of the ideas behind this sentence to be explained. As a plea from the asylum seekers, I'd like everybody to understand the plight they're in, given the current situation of the COVID. So the sentence that I read first of all in the paragraph says, cessation of both those who have been granted leave to remain and those who have been refused, it has restarted. I couldn't make head nor tail of that sentence, and I've asked other councillors if they've understood it. No one has. And the final sentence in the paragraph linked to that first one says, restarting cessations has also meant there's been an increase in the number of universal credit applications, child benefit applications, and bank account applications. Now, I personally do understand the ideas behind this, but I had to seek advice from our local authority asylum liaison officers to understand the plight that the asylum seekers are in. Given the fact that the Home Office has increased their allowance now, it has increased the support allowance for asylum seekers from £39.60 a week to £39.63, which I find an insult to increase an allowance by 3%, 3 pence in any week. That percentage is so negligible. So basically my question is, could you please explain what the sentence means? I'll start with 1. Cessation of both those who have been granted leave to remain and those who have been refused. It has restarted. Thank you.
Councillor Davidson.
Can't unmute.
We've got Councillor Davidson. Is she still?
She's in the meeting, Chair. Your mic's open.
Still with us.
Thank you. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can, Dorothy. Fire away.
I couldn't get it to unmute at all. So somebody has a magic button that's done that. Right. Can I explain this to you, Councillor? During the first wave of the pandemic, the Home Office was not processing the cases of individuals. So the individuals that were in Middlesbrough who were waiting to find out if they could stay or they had to go has not as yet been, they've been on total lockdown because of the COVID. It's meant that the team has focused on individuals already in the system. So the people who are already in the system, whether they can stay or they can go, they don't know at this present time. We're hoping that the individuals will find out and they'll be able to move on, and that our teams can then start working with ones that can actually stay with us. We can work with them to open bank accounts and benefits once they find out if they can stay or not. Does that answer your question?
It does, but my other point is there was no way anyone could understand the ideas that you've expressed from what was written in the report. It would be really handy and useful if we could have clear expression of the ideas so that they're easily understandable and they convey the meaning that's behind them. Thank you.
Right, thank you both, Councillor. Next question again is for Councillor David, and this one is from Councillor Higgins.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Councillor. In your report, page 1, under item 9, you stated that the government had issued guidance to councils to prepare for the introduction of the Domestic Abuse Bill to be introduced in 2021, which places the onus on councils to assess and provide support and safe accommodation to victims and their children. Also to work with other agencies. An opportunity has arisen in Middlesbrough to join up with IRIS programme. IRIS stands for Identification and Referral to Improve Safety. Working with IRIS would bring sufficient benefit to Middlesbrough in reducing the impact on the criminal justice system and help people suffering domestic abuse. My sister's place works closely with IRIS but needs to secure match funding. Could the councillor tell the group if there was any indication if the council is prepared to help with funding this great organisation which helps many adults and their children in the town? And thank you for the report.
Yes.
Thank you, Councillor.
Thank you, Chair. Could I just start with the beginning of this report and just give the members an update on the progress on this first paragraph, number 9. A briefing paper has been prepared and sent to partners. I'll just say DA, I presume you all know what domestic abuse bill preparation plan has been drafted. Directed briefing arranged to discuss new challenge funding and consider priorities. Meeting with DA leaders and other authorities. Funding commitment to save lives review across Cleveland, which will consider if the authorities' DA bill ready, and mapping work is being undertaken. Our priorities, we feel, are spending planned to a new challenge funding, understanding demand, capacity, information sharing protocol needs to be drafted so that data can be reviewed. Mapping needs an assessment, training across statutory, voluntary understanding strategy duty, performance report to the government, and we're awaiting guidance on that. So that is a small update, the first bit. With regards to funding, unfortunately, I'm unable to give the member any detail on this tonight. So if I could get back to you on a later date, Councillor, I'll find that information out from the necessary department. Thank you.
Thank you, councillors.
Thank you, councillor.
Right.
I'll await your call. Thank you.
Right, next question for Councillor Davidson is from Councillor Branson. Walking and cycling.
Good evening, Chair. Thank you, Chair. Yes, this is a question for Dorothy Davison. It relates to paragraph 43 and 44 of your report. And this refers to the government recently announced gear change programme. And what I wanted to know is what improvements Middlesbrough Council are intending to make to their local cycleway network so as to match the ambitious plans set out by the government in the gear change policy. And I'm thinking in particular of the need to expand the cycle lane routes, particularly to cover the west area of the town, and to improve the cycle routes along Martin Road and Ackham Road so as to make it easier for cyclists to use this. So my question really is, what are we intending to do and when are we intending to do it by? Thank you.
Right, thank you, Councillor Wilson. First of all, could I offer to forward to all members, if liked, and including you, Councillor Branson, the detail that has come through from government with regards to gear change? If members would like that information, I'll send that out to you totally prior to answering your question. Actually, better streets for cycling people is to improve the infrastructure. Cycling and walking at the head of decisions making. This was only, unfortunately, the decisions have not as yet been made on the progress of this because it's so new. So when we get that information, and there was a meeting held this morning, so when I get that information through, I'll pass it on to you, Councillor Branson.
Thank you very much. Yes, I'll be useful.
Thank you, councillors. Next set of questions, there's only one, is for Councillor Smiles. And this is from Councillor Cook, and it's titled Events. Councillor Cook, 2 minutes.
I promise I'll be less. So I'm really glad to see there's been so much activity in the town. I know that in Newport, for instance, we've had party pumpkins, and across the town we've had Halloween trails. I'm just wondering if going forward there'll be any scope to start having formal meetings prior to the seasonal periods to then try and involve councillors and see what they want to do in their wards, see if there's any sort of activities that they want to put in, and then see what help the council can provide.
Councillor Smiles.
Thank you for that question, Councillor Cook. I was delighted with the stuff that had gone on around Halloween. I know how much effort you put in, and I know how much Philip we put in as well. It was absolutely fantastic. And I thought it was really sort of joined up in a joint effort that we publicised all of that as well. And I would absolutely like to meet up. I know that you've got something going on at the moment with the Winter Wonderland Trail, and I'm really interested in that, and I'd want to do what I can to support it. So yes, I'd love to meet up. Let's get it arranged and sorted.
Thank you, councillors. Set of questions are for Councillor McCabe, and the first one is from Councillor Dodds, entitled Wildflower. Councillor, you've got 2 minutes.
Chair, sorry, Councillor Dodds, you're on mute. Could you unmute yourself, please?
Somebody else press the button.
That's okay. We can. You press it again. Just once more for me.
No.
I'm going to send you a. There you go. Don't touch it again, Councillor. You're fine.
No, I'm it was changed.
That's
right.
fine. Your mic's up.
Right. It's somebody else is pressing the buttons. Thank you. Thank you, Chair. Good evening.
Good evening.
To Councillor is just one. I would like to know where you propose the wildflowers. Will this include park and gardens? Roundabouts where it is safe to do so? And I'm sure that a lot of people myself will look forward to some colour in the town next year with these wildflower plantings for the dreadful year we've had. So could you please let me know where you are intending to plant? Thank you. touch that mute.
Councillor McCabe.
I'm still there.
Councillor McCabe, are you with it? Hello. Good. Yes, can hear you now.
15,000 square. Looking about 15 wildflower that will be planted. Just let me know.
Thank you, councillors. Next question for Councillor McCabe is from Councillor Story. 2 minutes, Councillor Story.
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, I just wanted to reference the section of the report that details about the nature reserve, which is sits in our ward, in Central Ward. It's something that I've been working on myself well before the last local elections, and the trail went a little bit cold after last May. But I'm really pleased to see that it's come back again in Councillor McCabe's report. For those of you who don't know, there's a green space as you just come off the A66 next to the Riverside Stadium, and just to the left of the roundabout, that area has lots of amazing nature in there. There's orchids which are very rare. We have deer, foxes, and I've been working closely with Camoxy, the chemical plant next door, and also with officers in planning to try and get that area preserved and get some walkways put in and information boards and so forth. I just wanted to ask Councillor McCabe if, as this progresses and as we look to try and develop a nature reserve there, can I please, and my colleagues Linda and Zaffa, be invited to any of the meetings to plan and develop this idea, because it's something that we've been very keen on and we'd like to be closely involved.
Councillor McCabe.
This is going ahead. There will be I find this precious set. We've got together.
Thank you, councillors. Next question is Councillor Chris Hobson, and the one she's got is from Councillor Jeanette Walker, Housing Benefit Performance.
Thank you, Chair. Actually, it isn't just that. That is one part of my. The one part is a question. The other part is the congratulations to the officers. On page one of thank you, Councillor Hobson. On page one of your report to Council this evening, I would like to ask you why the most important part of your portfolio regarding the medium-term financial plan and budget savings proposals and the revenue and capital budget projected out-term position as at Q2, etc., and Nunthorpe Grange Farm disposal, Church Lane, why are they only afforded a series of bullet points, basically, on your report? And surely these items form a very important part of your portfolio and should be explained in more detail than you have given. Do you actually complete the report yourself with an officer or have some say as to what it contains, as this is not the first time this has happened? Also, whilst I'm on, if you don't mind, still within my 2 minutes, I hope, I would also like, if permitted, to take the opportunity to commend the housing benefits section officers, especially working from home, of our council their continued hard work in dealing with all the issues for residents before and during the present unprecedented time. Their work is, I know from personal use, difficult, and they never fail to deliver. So well done to those officers. I expect there's many other officers that need congratulations too, but in this instance, I'm talking to the finance executive member. Thank you very much, Councillor.
Councillor Hobson.
Thank you, Councillor Walker, for your question. Yes, I do my report myself. I'm sorry that you're disappointed that there are only bullet points. I shall assure you in the future that I will explain a little bit more than that. And also for your second point, I am absolutely delighted in the way that the work that the revenues and benefits have worked, and they have actually got out all the revenue and benefits in such a short period of time. Considering the amount of work that they've done on COVID, this is absolutely outstanding, because not only did they have to do their own work, they had to get out business rates, and they also got the money out for the families that were having difficulties when we got that money through. So they've been very involved in all the COVID, and I would like to congratulate them myself, because they've done an absolutely fantastic job in keeping their own job going and keeping the days down to get the money out to people. So thank you for your question.
Thank you, councillors. Next question is for Councillor Waters. It's from Councillor Furness, and it's listed as infrastructure.
Thank you, Chair. It's regarding strategic infrastructure, paragraphs 1, 2 and 3. Yeah, and as I was say, it's great that my ward and Councillor Branson's ward has secured some funding for the zebra crossings and improved work around that. But I also find it's a bit of a shame, really, that we have to go through this process to get safer crossings for our communities. And I know on the list of people who did bid, as well as many other crossings that fell short and didn't get the funding. I'd like to see if we could try and have a programme where we'd roll out safer crossings for our areas and our communities rather than go through a bidding process. I think there's a lot of areas that in my ward, I could do better crossings. I can imagine in everyone else's wards that could. And obviously with the strategy of the council, providing more green and being more clean in the future, I think it'd be a great way to, improve our walk and our cycling infrastructure, and get people out there actually walking and cycling if we have the proper infrastructure in place, rather than ad hoc approach. Thank you.
Councillor Waters.
Hello, sorry about that. Thank you for that question, Councillor Furness. Yeah, this has been the situation for a long time under many administrations, and I agree it's not always the best of scenarios with regards to how we decide on where crosses are going, but there is mechanics and procedures in place to assess where drastically needs them. So obviously the way things are, I think we should look at it. I think it should be looked at and what we can do, and it's something that I will take up with our regeneration team, see if it can be done in a different way, or we can address it in a different way for you going forward.
Thank you, Councillor. Well, we've just gone over the 30-minute mark now. We've got probably time for another two, but these will be second questions. So we'll just do another two, and then we'll call a halt to it. Again, Councillor Branson, you have a question for Councillor Waters on infrastructure.
Thank you, Chair. First of all, I'd like to say thank you very much for approving the crossing at Newham Way. That will be very much residents and will make it a much safer road. I think the other thing I just wanted to ask on that is, certainly we've been asked on a number of occasions when we can take action to prevent heavy goods vehicles using Newham Way, which at the end of the day is not a through road, it's an access road.
Oh. Did you get that, Councillor Walters?
I got bits and pieces of it. I think I get the gist of the issue.
Okay.
I think what would probably be best to do, Councillor Branson, thank you for the question, by the way, would be all of us sit down together, so meet you, myself, and possibly the people in charge of highways, and sit down and see what actually can be done and if we can do anything to combat that problem. So if that's okay with you, we'll look to put something in the diary and do that going forward.
That's lovely. I'll send you an email to that effect. Thank you.
Thank you, councillors. Right, we'll do one last one. This is again from Councillor Morstan for Councillor Davidson, and it's about eco shops. Councillor Morstan.
Thank you, Chair. Davidson, it's a question about the eco shop. Basically, how successful are the shops, and what is the take-up? Yeah.
Councillor Davidson.
Thank you. Thank you for that, Scott. You've unmuted me again. Eco shops are one of the very, very successful things that are happening in Middlesbrough for people. You can actually buy food at 16 different operational shops and venues for you can get 10 items of food for £2. Most of these shops are set up in schools or throughout Middlesbrough, also in community areas, community centres. There are unfortunately only 2 at the moment, but we hope to move on. With regards to success, we have approximately 600 clients. The EcoSub redistributes over 1.5 tonnes of surplus food, which is supplied to us by Fairshare each week. This provides 3,900 meals. During COVID, there was a virtual eco shops, and we set up with 5.5 tonnes to redistribute. This meant this was 14,000 meals provided. There was 1,400 deliveries made, and 96% self-referral rate on over, and we also provided 1,500 recipes, either online or on paper. In the eco shops, the 10 items are what I would call pasta, etc., but fresh fruit and vegetables are all free. Thank you for that question, Councillor Mawson.
Right, thank you very much, councillors. So I'm sorry for the people that put questions in and haven't had them answered, but we really must move on. So if you haven't had your question answered, the only way you can do it now really is to send an email to the executive person and ask them for a reply. So we carry on now. Agenda item 8, which is the report of the Overview and Scrutiny Board. Councillor Thompson, would you present this, please?
Thank you, Chair. Members have received reports from the OSC and scrutiny panels and the ad hoc, and that they've been noted, but I'm happy to take any questions. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor. Anyone got any questions for Councillor Thompson? No? Okay. Move on to the next item. Is agenda item 9, notice of motions. We have none. Item 10, notice of urgent motions. We have none. Motion, item 11, urgent items. We have none. So we now come to question time. We've got 3 questions from different councillors, from Jeanette Walker, Councillor Dean and Councillor Halawi, for members. The first one is from Councillor Jeanette Walker to Councillor McCabe. Councillor Walker, would you like to start? You've got 2 minutes. 2
Thank you.
minutes and 3 minutes to answer the question.
Right, thank you very much, Chair. And he has also had sight of my question anyway. I will go quickly through it. Regarding the decision to go ahead with fortnightly waste collections, despite a large number of residents completing the online consultation, expressing very real concerns about the proposal, the decision has been to go ahead. Residents are quite rightly angry and upset that it appears to have been a tick box consultation and of no worth whatsoever. This will call into question of what worth is any future consultation with MBC. Residents are quite rightly concerned that this decision will cause many problems in their neighbourhoods already experiencing fly tipping and general rubbish issues. As a ward councillor for Hemlington, I have received many questions and complaints regarding this decision. We have in Hemlington Estates where we have the black bag system due to no space for wheelie bins, and residents in those areas are concerned as to where they will store black bags of household waste for 2 weeks. Rats very much come to mind, and smell also then people dumping them around the area. What about those who already have a large bin due to medical issues who require their bins emptying regularly due to medical waste? You say larger bins will be available. What is the plan for all the smaller bins? At what cost does this decision mean? Also, larger bins, more bins, where do people already have limited space actually outside actually place these bins? A majority of residents in Middlesbrough do not live in houses with a garden space to match. Surely the wagons collecting a fortnight's waste will have to make more journeys to the waste collection point, as it will be fuller quicker. Where are the savings in that? Middlesbrough Borough Council also should, if making decisions such as this, give a thought to recycling education. In what form will that take? It already seems a hard task for many residents. Also, we must remember that 12 jobs are to be lost when you make this decision. I would like a full explanation, including savings and justification regarding my questions in regards to the decision to go ahead despite the many objections. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor McCabe.
Sorry, Chair. Sorry, Councillor. I can't hear what you're saying.
I can't hear you.
Councillor McCabe, the only thing I can suggest is if I turn your video off for you, that might save a bit of bandwidth. Are you okay for me to turn your video off for this response?
How's that? Is that any better?
That's better.
It is, Dennis, yes.
Yeah, I'll turn the video off. Yeah, okay. You state that the decision to go ahead, well, that was done yesterday and it was voted in unanimously. And as the council procedures state, this will be subject to a 5-day wait for any call-in procedures, if there is any. You say the consultation has been a tick box exercise. You haven't personally contacted me regarding this during this consultation, which I find quite amusing, actually. The tick box consultation is a fact-finding process to find out what the people want. This is an ongoing process. We sent out 2,300 paper requests. We only got 594 back, roughly about 25%, which is very low. Overall, most people stated they just wanted a bigger bin. There was some concerns about smells, which is rightly so, and it's gonna happen. We can address that as and when you need it. The area you're talking about in your area is black bin bagged. I believe it's in the Seas area. We've been talking to the provider, the Housing Association, and they're waiting on the outcome of this fortnightly collection, and they're going to provide black bins or bins for that area. The recycling, the education, obviously you've never read the report because in paragraph 18, it states what we're going to do to address that. And there is already processes and information out there on the internet, but we will address this. With regard to the 12 jobs, there will be no compulsory redundancies at this time, because this will not come into effect till April time, and then this will be in negotiation with the unions, and hopefully through people wanting to retire early, these 12 jobs could be saved. I hope that answers your questions.
Can
With regards to costs,
No, councillor, no supplementary questions. We haven't had it all night, so we're not going to start.
Well, you're
it now.
wrong,
Sorry.
because he's wrong, actually. There's 2 estates in Hemlington, so therefore you want to get your facts right there, councillor. And can I just say, I'm being aggressive because you've answered my question quite aggressively to me this evening, and I do feel...
Can we have some more order, please?
Thank you.
Come on. Can we have some more order?
Yeah, we'll have a bit of respect, please. Right.
On both sides, councillor.
Second question is for Councillor Dean, from Councillor Dean, and that's for Councillor Waters. Councillor Dean?
If you just press your mute button for me there, please, Councillor Dean. There you go.
Thank you, Chair. Could Councillor Waters please explain? Okay.
Yep.
Sorry. Could Councillor Waters please explain why the go-ahead was given for a second consultation on the closure of Church Lane and St Mary's Walk? Thank you.
I certainly can. Can you hear me, guys?
Yeah.
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah, this has been an ongoing issue with Church Walk and St Mary's for a long time, and the previous administration sat on their hands and done nothing about it. They did a consultation, and it basically came out with a 50-50 split with regards to what should be done. I wasn't willing to sit on my hands and listen to concerns from these 2 streets that were getting constant runs through. Now, I know there's been issues caused by this, but this is a trial run to see what we can do in the long term.
Can I come back on that, Chair?
No, I'm sorry. We're not having any supplementary questions. We haven't done it all night, so we're going to start now.
I'm not really happy with that answer.
Well, send him an email him and ask him again.
Well, he's not answering emails to the residents, so is he going to answer mine?
Can we please have some order?
You'll have to try it and see. Can we just,
Sorry,
you know, you're not listening to what was said at the start. All questions have to come through the chair. And please, you know, we're doing this live. So we need your conduct to reflect that matter that we're doing it live. You're just going on for going on's sake. You asked your question, you've got an answer, you have to shut up with it. That's the end of the story. I've had it for 13 years and I know. Next question is from Councillor Halawi and it's for Councillor Smiles.
Thank you, Chair. It's given the fact that we have approximately 28,000 children and young people in educational establishments in our town. I'm really disappointed to find that we have so little information related to educational issues in the report for tonight's meeting. It's quite astonishing to find hardly anything which could relate to the education of all of these children and young people. We need every council meeting, in my opinion, information on attainment, information on assessment. We need to know currently about the COVID response situation in our schools and what's happening given the pandemic. We need to know about special education and disability issues in our school and how they're affecting children at any particular time. We need to know how many referrals are being put through to specialist services. We need to know about the well-being of our children. We need to know about the mental health of our children and staff. We need to know about staff morale. And these are only some of the issues that I think it's our duty to recognise and be aware of. As a governor of 2 schools in the town, I'm pretty aware of a lot of them. And I know these challenges face our schools. And I think that they face schools across the town, not just the ones I work in. Could I please entreat you to ensure that we as a councillor and councillors are doing as much as we can? Tell us that we are, hopefully we are. I think everyone should know what we're doing for our schools and colleges. And I'd like to be reassured that from now on, we will have a very full and comprehensive report about issues concerned with education in our reports to councillors for council meetings. Thank you.
Councillor Smiles?
Yeah, thank you for your question, Councillor Halawi. It's absolutely right that you hold me to account, and particularly given your place as the chair of the Corporate Parenting Board. In regards to that, I know that your board is doing all it can at the moment to assist with our improvement journey, and I enjoy attending the boards. And there was something that come out of the last meeting, actually, raised by you directly, making sure that we were doing the right thing by our care leavers in terms of opportunities at the council. And I've contacted the head of community learning on that matter, and I know that they're acting on it, so that's great. In regards to your question on my report, the executive report isn't the place for reams and reams of information about education. It is so vast and broad a topic. We could be going on, you know, thousands and thousands of pages in terms of what we're doing to sort of support schools. In terms of sort of more detailed reports, I took 2 to the executive meeting yesterday, and I hope that you've had the opportunity to read them, and you also can watch it on YouTube. And that was, like, as you say, it was about special educational needs and disabilities and what we're doing, and it was about school placement planning as well. There were a number of things laid out in the report in terms of what we're doing, such as the youth offending service and what we're doing in regards to literacy. But actually, I think the most important thing for me is the fact that I'm getting out and I'm visiting schools. Because in the past, the feedback that we've got is that schools have felt quite detached from us as a local authority. And I think this is changing. We've got positive feedback about how supportive they've felt during the COVID situation. And I think actually building those relationships with the head teachers, staff, and seeing children in their own educational settings, I think that's absolutely vital. And you're right, there's lots of challenges and issues at the moment that are coming into us, very real concerns about the challenges of remote learning and digital poverty and how that feeds into it. And all of the feedback that I'm getting will go into a recovery strategy that you're perfectly welcome, and I hope you'd be interested in reading as well. But I'm happy to discuss these issues with you whenever you want to give a call or drop me an email. And I didn't realise that you were a governor at schools as well, and I would love to come along and visit those schools. So I do really appreciate your interest in this. I know you're passionate about it, and I hope that's gone somewhere to answering your question, Councillor.
Thank you.
Thank you, councillors.
Thank you.
Right, we'll move on now to agenda item number 13. And it's a report from the monitoring officer. So Charlotte, would you like to present the report, please?
Thank you, Chair. This matter will require a vote, and I'll give a short summary of the report and assume that most members have had the opportunity to read the report. This is about the member scheme of allowances, and a decision sought from the council. So council is asked to adopt the proposed member scheme of allowances for 2020-2021, which is at Appendix 1 of the report. By way of background, the council is required by law to publish a member scheme of allowances every year. In setting the scheme, the council is required to have due regard to the recommendations of the independent panel on members' remuneration, which carries out a review of the scheme every year. Council agreed the current scheme of allowances at Appendix 1 in October 2019. The only change to last year's scheme is an additional award of £1,000 for each year for the next 2 years to the Deputy Mayor, Councillor High, in recognition of his additional responsibility as Executive Member for Children. I also have an amendment to table to the report, and there's been an omission in the financial section of the report, that's points 13 to 15, to advise of the previously agreed scheme of allowances and the proposed amendment to the Deputy Mayor's Special Responsibility Allowance, which will be met from the existing members' allowances budget. So that's my summary of the report. Happy to take questions. Otherwise, can I ask, Chair, that the matter goes to a vote?
Anybody got any questions? Right, no questions.
Chair, I think Councillor Matt Story wishes to ask a question.
I'm
Councillor
myself, Chair,
Story?
once finished. Thank you.
Councillor Story?
Yeah, thanks, Chair. I'd like to highlight a couple of things that the Labour Group have discussed. We have some concerns about this report. The main concern we have is about the increase to the Deputy Mayor's allowance. The Deputy Mayor serves in that position based on the patronage of the Mayor. It's up to the Mayor what his remit is. The report specifically references the increase in responsibility and wider remit for the Deputy Mayor, which, as I say, is entirely within the gift of the Mayor. This is a subjective viewpoint that the remuneration panel have taken. They have decided that the wider remit requires more funding to go to Deputy Mayor. I would say that that's a subjective viewpoint. For example, the Executive Member for Culture and Education also has a very wide-ranging and complex brief. On what basis have we decided that the Deputy Mayor particularly requires extra money? I'd also say that other executive members during the course of the year have had their portfolios changed, and executive briefs do change regularly with responsibilities switching. So I would take issue with the remuneration panel's decision that extra money should go to someone for an increase in responsibility when responsibilities can also be taken away. For example, certain exec members have had their briefs reduced, and as a result, would they see the money that they receive for their special responsibility allowances reduced? I would also point out that the Deputy Mayor already receives a larger special responsibility allowance than other executive members. So for all of those reasons, the Labour Group will not be supporting the report, and we would like the report to be reconsidered by the remuneration panel on that basis. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Councillor Hyde, did you want to say something?
Yes, please, Chair. Can I just bring forward the fact that this process was done totally externally from any involvement with myself? I would also like to say that I would reject the proposals made, and I will be encouraging every other independent within the room tonight to reject the proposals that are made. I just want to go on the record to say that this has had absolutely nothing to do with me. It is an external process that is done through a remuneration panel, as Councillor Story and the Labour Group are aware. So I just want to go on record now to say that this is not something I would accept, and I would encourage every member to vote against this particular item that's getting brought forward tonight. Thank you, Chair.
Chair, Councillor Rathmell wishes to speak as well.
Councillor Rathmell?
Yeah, just to echo the sentiments of Councillor Story and Councillor High, and it's pleasing to note that Councillor High said it's had no involvement with him, because I am aware the remuneration panel have been petitioned on a number of occasions, specifically with regards to only his allowance. And given the government are looking at the freezing of the public sector pay and the time we've been through regarding COVID and that we're still through, I think me personally, it would be inappropriate to accept any increase across the board as elected members, because there's been significant changes since last year when this was originally discussed. Yes, I've rejected it every year since being elected, but it's a significant jump that everybody would be accepting should they accept it tonight and agree with this report. So for that reason, I personally would be rejecting the report and voting against it as well. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor. Well, Charlotte, how do we go from there? Do we still go for a vote?
No, sorry to interrupt. It's Andy Preston here. Can I just say a couple of words? Sorry to interrupt.
Of course.
Apologies. I just want to make it clear to everyone that this isn't something that Anthony High ever brought forward. This was an independent panel that suggested this and put this forward. I had no idea actually this was coming tonight, and I don't know whether Anthony did. What I also want to make clear is that this current panel of executives work incredibly hard. I'm not saying others haven't. What I'm saying is this current panel of executives costs a lot less than executives have done previously. We have fewer execs and they get paid less. And I want to make that really clear that Anthony High, Mika Smiles, Dorothy Davis and Ashley Waters, Chris Hobson and Dennis McCabe work incredibly hard, and they cover actually for what would normally have 2 more people on the payroll. So they're all picking up the slack, and the independent remuneration panel identified Councillor High as in particular taking up a lot of slack here. So he's very nobly said he doesn't want the extra money. He didn't know this was coming. He didn't ask for extra money. It was independent. I just make sure that everyone knows that the current round of executives are costing this council and the council taxpayer less than any previous lot. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Preston. Charlotte?
Thank you, Chair. Can I suggest, Chair, that perhaps the best way to deal with this might be to invite members who've spoken on the issue to consider whether they would propose an amendment to the report on the particular point that's been addressed. I wonder whether any of the members would consider that.
I would personally, Chair, if that's okay through yourself, I personally would like to move a recorded vote on this matter, and I don't think it's unreasonable, given the representations made, that this report's sent back with the concerns that have been raised to the remuneration panel, because nobody else has come with anything to the contrary.
Chair, if I can respond to that, if I may.
Yeah.
My suggestion, Councillor, was simply because the area of dissension, if you will, seemed to be about the same point for everybody, which was the remuneration for the Deputy Mayor. So it may be that other elements of the scheme are agreed by members, so that at least part of the report or an amended version of it could be approved tonight. Obviously, it's not a matter for me to determine. It's up to members as to how they wish to proceed. And if the preference is to conduct a recorded vote on the report in its entirety, then obviously, Chair, we can do that.
Chair?
Yeah.
Chair, Councillor High.
Councillor High.
The fact that this is being brought forward, I don't want it to move out of the room. I would rather us vote this down now and have it on the record that this has been rejected. And I would ask and I would hope that all of the members would support me in pushing that forward for rejection. Thank you.
Okay.
Will you second that recorded vote then, Anthony?
Chair, can I say, as someone who's also commented on this, I would agree with Councillor High and Councillor Rathmell. I think the report should stand. We should vote on it on a recorded basis, and it should be sent back to the remuneration panel for them to assess the comments that have been made and for the report to be brought back to a future meeting.
Fair enough. Agree with that?
I agree with Councillor Story.
Yeah.
I agree.
Right, so shall we do a recorded vote?
Okay. Thank you, Chair.
Right. Have you got the list, Charlotte?
I have. If you bear with me just
I will,
a few
yeah.
seconds.
I was hoping you had the list because I
I've got it. Okay, if everybody's ready, I will start. So when I read your name out, councillors, if you could indicate whether you are for approving the report, against approving the report, or whether you abstain. Okay. Mayor Preston.
Abstain.
Thank you. Councillor Arundale.
Abstain.
Thank you. Councillor Bell.
Abstain.
Thank you. Councillor Branson.
Against.
Councillor Cook.
Against.
Councillor Cooper.
Against.
Thank you. Councillor Coop.
Against.
Thank you. Councillor Davison.
Against.
Thank you. Councillor Dean. Councillor Dean.
If you press unmute for me, please, Councillor Dean.
Against.
Thank you. Councillor Dodds. Councillor Dodds, could you repeat that, please?
My mute button is against, please.
Thank you. Councillor Furness.
Did it again?
It must be sticking on.
Councillor Furness?
Against.
Thank you. Councillor Garvey?
Against.
Thank you. Councillor Goodchild?
If
Do
you
we have
press the blue
Councillor
button in front
Goodchild?
of you, Councillor Goodchild, if you press the blue button in front of you, that'll unmute your mic. Unfortunately, Charlotte, we're unable to mute Councillor Goodchild. If you come back to Councillor
Yes, I'll
Goodchild,
come
we'll
back
wait for
to
that.
it. I'll come back to it. Councillor Halawi?
Against.
Thank you. Councillor Higgins?
Against.
Councillor High?
Against.
Thank you. Councillor Hill? Thank you. Councillor Chris Hobson?
Against.
Thank you. Councillor John Hobson?
Against.
Thank you. Councillor Hubbard?
Against.
Thank you. Councillor Hussain?
Against.
Thank you. Councillor Jones?
Against.
Thank you. Councillor Lewis?
Against.
Thank you. Councillor Mason?
Against.
Thank you. Councillor Morstan?
Against.
Thank you. Councillor McCabe?
Again.
Thank you. Councillor McIntyre, did we have apologies from Councillor McIntyre?
Yes, yes, we did.
Okay, thank you. Councillor McTighe, we had apologies.
Yes.
And Councillor Nugent. Councillor Platt?
Abstain.
Thank you. Councillor Polano?
Against.
Thank you. Councillor Purvis?
Said against.
Thank you. Councillor Rathmell?
Against.
Thank you. Councillor Rooney?
Against.
Thank you. Councillor Rostron? Councillor Rostron? Do we have Councillor Rostron?
Just checking for you now, Charlotte. Yes, we do have her in the meeting. Councillor Rostron, if you can hear me, if you press the blue button in front of you now, that should unmute your microphone.
Shall we come back to Councillor Rostron?
That'd be a good idea.
Yeah. Councillor Sons? Could you repeat that, please, Councillor Sons?
Against.
Against. Thank you. Councillor Saunders?
Against.
Thank you. Councillor Smiles?
Against.
Thank you. Councillor Matthew Storey?
Against.
Thank you. Councillor Janet Thompson?
Against.
Thank you. Councillor Uddin? Councillor Uddin?
If you press *6 on your phone, you should be able to speak.
I didn't hear that, Chair. I'm not sure whether you did.
I think we'll have to come back to Councillor Uddin as well, Charlotte.
Okay. Let's see. Councillor Jeanette Walker?
Can't hear you.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you. Councillor Stephen Walker?
Against.
Councillor Waters?
Against.
Thank you. Councillor Wilson?
Against.
Thank you. Councillor Wright?
Against.
Thank you. And can we come back to Councillor Goodchild?
Against.
Thank you. Councillor Rostron?
Still having some difficulty with Councillor Rostron, unfortunately. If you press on mute for me now, Julie, you should be able to.
Against.
Hooray.
Councillor Rostron, and lastly, Councillor Uddin. Do we still have Councillor Uddin on the phone?
I believe Councillor Uddin's calling to the meeting through the phone, Charlotte, so I'm just trying to get into a mute. Councillor Uddin, if you press *6 on your phone, it'll unmute you. Unfortunately, there's nothing more I can do from this end, Charlotte.
That's fine, thank you, Scott. So, Chair, if you would bear with me, I'll calculate the votes and I'll come back to you shortly.
Okay.
Thank you.
What are you going against?
Chair, we have 42 votes in total and 4 abstaining, none for, and 38 against approving the report.
Right. So the vote has gone against the report. So we send it back to the remuneration panel to look at it again. Is that what we decided?
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
That's fine, Chair.
That's fine. Right. Right. We'll carry on to the next item, agenda item 14. Once again, it's for the monitoring officer to present its business report of the Director of Legal and Governance Services. Charlotte, over to you.
Okay, thank you, Chair. I'll go into a little bit of detail here, hopefully not too much, but just to outline the main proposed changes to the Constitution, which have been approved by the Constitution and Member Development Committee, but do require a vote of full council to approve them. So, firstly, there is a proposal to give the chairs of all 6 scrutiny panels a seat on the Overview and Scrutiny Board, which they don't currently have. Secondly, there is a proposal to revise the council's filming meetings protocol to take account of COVID-19 and our remote meetings way of doing things. And then thirdly, to include in the Constitution provision for the appointment of chairs of committees and motions of no confidence about which the Constitution is currently silent. Fourthly, to remove the prohibition on questions and motions in relation to the character or conduct of an individual, which is considered an unnecessary and constraining provision. Members will note that a question or motion can be rejected if it is defamatory, frivolous or offensive, and that will remain in the Constitution should you choose to approve this amendment. Finally, amendments are proposed to the terms of reference of Chief Officer Appointments Committee and the Officer Employment Procedure Rules to bring them into line with each other. There's a slight contradiction at the moment, which should clarify that the appointment of the Monitoring Officer and the Chief Finance Officer is the responsibility of the Chief Officer Appointments Committee rather than the full council. That's my summary, Chair, thank you. So we do need to ask councillors to vote as to whether they approve those amendments to the Constitution.
Do we got any questions first? Have everybody got anything to?
Yes, Chair. Councillor Rooney wishes to speak, I think.
Councillor Rooney.
Thanks, Chair. In relation to this report, I'm proposing that we accept it, but with the exception of Part 1C, the chairing of votes and no confidence, and the Appendix 3. And my proposal is those are sent back to the Constitution Committee to look at. My reasons for that is we really need more detail to provide on what the research showed, that we provided with further information on how point 6 will operate, because it actually says on Appendix 3.6, if I can find the flipping thing again, that the council can remove a chair or vice chair at any time, and I think we need some more detail as to when those circumstances can happen. And also an explanation of why paragraphs 21F and 57B are to be deleted. That information isn't in the report. And additionally, at the last AGM, there was a lot of what was heated discussion on the voting powers of the executive. Now, Ms Storchell at the time was doing some further work on this, but it was never brought back to council. And we'd like to avoid this happening again. And I think the Constitution and Members Committee could also clarify the rules around this and bring it back to council. And we do have plenty of time to get this right in time for the next AGM. So to confirm, I propose that the report is accepted with the exception of those points, which are then sent back to the Constitution Committee for further information and detail and to be brought back to council. Thank you.
Chair, may I respond? Thank you,
Yes,
Chair.
Charlotte, if you will.
Thank you, Councillor Rooney. Can I then check with you, are you proposing an amendment to the report as in effect an amendment to a motion?
Yes, yes, Charlotte, I am proposing an amendment. But the report, the rest of it, there isn't an issue with. That's fine. It's just this part which is on point 1C and the appendix 3 that goes with it is sent back to the Constitution Committee to provide further detail and then be brought forward back to the council for agreement. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Rooney. So, Chair, do we have a seconder?
Do we have a seconder? Yes.
Yeah, I'll second that. Councillor Garvey.
Councillor Garvey. Right. Right. So we've had an amendment. Now we have to debate it. Would anybody like to say anything on it? No? Can't see any hands up. Well, the move of the
Excuse me.
Yeah.
Can I propose that the whole back to the full council, all these matters what Councillor Story's brought up are sort of like looked into and then put back in the report. So the whole report goes back.
I don't know now. Can we, Charlotte?
Chair, if I may, we should deal with this proposed amendment first and then
right. Okay.
vote on the proposed amendment and deal with any subsequent amendments after that.
Okay. So we're dealing with the amendment, right? If nobody wants to speak on it, so what happens now? The mover of the amendment has a right of reply. Councillor Rooney can't reply because nobody said anything about it. So the amendment now should be put to the vote. Am I reading that right,
if I could come in there, I, as the mover of the original motion, have the right to reply, but I'm not going to reply to those points.
Right. Okay. Hens. Right. So we'll go to the vote. Are we going to do another recorded vote, Charlotte, or are we just going to do what we've done before, where we say all those in dissent put their hands up? Sorry,
Chair,
I can't hear you.
Chair, could we ask Councillor Arundale to mute, please?
Yes, will you mute, Ron, please?
I think that should be better now. So can I suggest that we ask for any dissent in the first instance to see if we need to go to recorded vote?
All those people in dissent, would you raise your hands, please? I can't see everybody, Charlotte, can you?
I think we haven't got everybody on camera, so if anybody does dissent, could they open their microphone now?
Ron Allen's not on camera. I can see Ron's not there.
Is there any dissent?
I can see Councillor Arundale, Chair.
Can I ask a question, Chair?
Yes.
What is the amendment? I'm sorry if I didn't catch that, but could we just have a summary of what the amendment was?
Well, the amendment was that we accepted the report as it was, but the parts in that Councillor Rooney picked out was one of them was about the doing away with the chair. If you're not happy with the chair, you can have it removed. And there was something else. I can't remember what it was.
Right. Would you like me to confirm it?
Do
Chair?
it again, please. Yeah.
Right. My proposal is that we accept the report with the exceptions of Part 1C, which is on the first page, which is about chairing and no votes of confidence. and the Appendix 3, which attaches to those points, and that those elements are sent back to the Constitution Committee so we can have further detail and clarification, because I don't think there's enough in there to give us the information we need. Thank you.
Does that answer your question, Councillor Smiles?
Yeah, I'm with you. So we're not rejecting them entirely. We're just sending it back for a bit more info.
Yeah, we'll accept. Well, we're going to vote to say whether we'll accept the report, with the exception of the 3 items that Councillor Rooney has just said. Those 3 items, which we'll send back to the Constitution Committee to see if we can get any further information on it and discuss it again. Is that all right with you, Charlotte? Are we doing it legally?
Yes. So where did we get up to? Did we get to asking whether there was dissent?
We got up to asking whether there's dissent. Whether there's any dissent to Councillor Rooney's proposal. I can't see any hands up at all.
Anybody who isn't on camera, could you open your microphone if you dissent?
I think the video's beaten everyone into submission, Chair.
I think you're right, it does.
Chair, I don't have a video and I have no dissent.
Right.
Councillor High.
I can see your name, Councillor High, yeah.
In which case, if there's no dissent, then the amendment is carried.
The amendment is carried, right.
So the next thing we need to do, Chair, is, well, I as the mover of the original motion have a right of reply, which I don't intend to exercise. So the next thing is to vote on the amended substantive motion.
So all those in favour of the motion?
I think perhaps what we can do, Chair, is the same as we've just done. Essentially, we're voting on the same matter we've just discussed. So is there any dissent to the amended substantive motion, i.e. the amended report being approved, the bits taken out that are to be referred back to the Constitution and the Development Committee? I'll take that there's no dissent, so the amended report is therefore approved.
Right. Okay. Right. That brings us to almost to the end of the meeting. The next council meeting is quite close to Christmas. I think it's the 18th, speaking off the top of my head. I've had a request that possibly we could start it probably at 2 o'clock or something on the afternoon, get it finished, and that would give officers of the council or councillors or anybody else time to go if they wanted to do so, go into the town to do a bit of Christmas shopping. So we're thinking about moving the next meeting forward to an afternoon one. It would also be a good idea to do one in an afternoon to see if the machine itself will work a little bit better and we won't have people being lost and found again and all the other horrible things that happen to us. So just watch this space. The next meeting might be changed. So thank you very much for your attendance. We'll see you next time. Good night. By the way, the Borough were winning 2-0 at the last report I had.
3-0 it was.
3-0. Oh.
Thanks, Chair. Well done.
Thank you for that good news, Chair. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Bye.
Every 3 was gone.
Thank you, Chair. I've had a difficulty getting my mute.